This is the Canadian Taxpayers Podcast. We're dedicated to lower taxes, less waste, and more accountable government. I'm here with Franco Terrazzano. Franco, read it and weep, man. So National Post discovered that global affairs are managing to blow more of our money on frivolous crap. How did they manage to do that?
Well, the National Post wrote the story, but it was actually Jimbo, James Wood, our investigative journalist, who really did all the digging here. Now, he's not on the podcast recording today, so don't tell him that I was praising him, but he found out. Yeah, give him a clap. He found out, give him a round of applause. He found out that Global Affairs spent more than $41,000 on fancy, custom-built office furniture during the heart of the pandemic and lockdowns. Now, they spent money on a bunch of crazy stuff, but this one, Chris, this one takes the cake. They spent nearly $9,000 on 13 lamps. That's more than what many Canadians, myself included, have spent on a car. Chris, that's $700 a lamp.
Yeah, that's more than my car too. That's almost impressive. I can't say I'm not even mad because I am really mad, but that's crazy that they were able to manage to spend that amount of money. So it defies logic for average people listening right now. Like we just said, this costs more than our cars. So how, pray tell, Franco, how did Global Affairs manage to wedge this much money into these small items?
Okay, so I have it all written down here just because there's so many different bad examples. So forgive me, but I have to look at the paper here. So let me just step back 1 second. Remember, Global Affairs spent 41,000 smackers on custom-made office furniture for the bureaucrats and diplomatic offices around the world during the heart of the pandemic. So we said the $9,000 spent on custom lamps. It's silly, but it's only the beginning because they also spent $4,300 for a sign-in table at the Canada High Commissioner's Place in Kenya. They spent 10,000 smackers for 6 floor screens in the ambassador's residence in Tokyo. $6,000 for a custom-made cabinet in the High Commissioner's office in New Zealand. Sounds fancy. And $7,900 for a credenza and coffee table for the Trade Commissioner's office in Brazil. Now, Simmer, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't even know what a credenza is.
I was just about to interrupt you and explain to you what a credenza is. So, Franco, when you walk into a vestibule or an entryway, there's usually a little high side table. That can be called a credenza, but most typically it is in a formal dining room. So it's like a sideboard. So, if you're using, Old English or Germanic terms, it's a sideboard. If you're using fancy terms, it's a credenza. So it's a high, narrow, skinny table that you set your fancy stuff on. We spent what on it? What was that?
$7,900 on a credenza.
Okay, so just my blood pressure is going up. As an aside, I'm pretty good at finding really cool, authentic antiques and for very good prices. It's really fun. It's part of treasure hunting. We are not expecting people to be setting their sign-in books down on milk crates. Okay, we know that you can't use a folding chair. But there's a heck of a big difference between that and blowing nearly $9,000 on a credenza. You can find elegant, tasteful things for a reasonable amount of money. And how on earth could they not figure out a way, especially during, the guts of the pandemic, to not save some money and respect taxpayers' dollars?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of the story, right? We've been making fun of this, but it's something that we have to remember is that this crazy spending happened during the heart of the pandemic when their neighbors in the private sector were losing their jobs or being sent home by the thousands, when so many small business owners were really worried about whether or not they would ever open up again. So I think that's important to remember. Now, you were talking about treasure hunting. We got Jimbo to go on a little online treasure hunt. He went on the internet to see, how much he could actually save on all these different type of items. So, Chris, remember the $10,000 spent for the 6 floor screens in Tokyo?
Yep.
Turns out the bureaucrats could have purchased all of the floor screens from IKEA for about $1,000. So $9,000.
Pretty ones. Like they have pretty ones. This is ridiculous. Okay, go on. Yep. Give me the rest of it. Give me the list.
Okay. Put the coffee down, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to get hot in here. The bureaucrats, if they had gone to the Brazilian furniture chain Talk and Stock, they could have spent around $212 for a local coffee table. Instead of spending $9,000 on those 13 custom lamps, well, if the Global Affairs bureaucrats had purchased their lamps at an IKEA in Ottawa, they could have spent about $259 for the entire order. Yeah, and look, to your point earlier, we're not saying don't staff offices, don't put furniture in these offices. We're saying don't show contempt for taxpayers' hard-earned money, especially given the situation. And you know what, Chris? I mean, really, it's unfortunate that even a pandemic couldn't get these bureaucrats at Global Affairs to stop wasting taxpayers' money.
Yeah, this reminds me of Vancouver City Hall, where, hey, we think we need some new chairs. And what do? They go out and find the most expensive designer chairs you could possibly find. I mean, these things on Antiques Roadshow, they go for like 10 grand a piece. Like, why? Why? And this is, you nailed it there. It does show contempt and disrespect for taxpayers' money. And these folks at Global Affairs, though, this isn't as if they've been running a tight ship.
Oh, no.
And this was a big oopsie. Like, they've been blowing money a lot over there.
Yeah, they've got a real knack for it, actually. They've got a real knack for wasting taxpayers' money. I mean, remember, this is the department that spent $8,800 on a sex toy show in Germany. Now, Chris, maybe I'm an old-fashioned guy, but if the Germans want to blow $8,000 on a sex toy show in Germany, let them pay for it, right? Why are Canadians paying for that? We're not even getting any economic spin-off because the sex toy show was in Germany. Okay.
This reminds me of when taxpayers were having to pay for foreign, softcore pornography that was being played on one of the French weird equivalents of strange online channels of the CBC, but it was foreign. It wasn't even Canadian that they were paying for. I digress. Okay, so $8,000 on a sex toy show in Germany, and there's a lot worse there too, from what I remember.
There is $50,000 on a red carpet photography exhibit for Canadian rock star Bryan Adams. Awesome. But then look, they're also giving away thousands of dollars to help famous Canadians promote their art, their work, abroad. There was more than $15,000 spent to promote famous cartoonist Lynn Johnston's work in Washington.
She's the for better or for worse cartoonist. She's super successful. They don't need this money. Go on.
Yep. And it's from taxpayers too, right? So there's also nearly $10,000 to help author Margaret Atwood promote a new book in Australia.
Well, Margaret Atwood is a struggling up and coming writer. Not many people know her name.
Stop.
This is it. This is where we need to change the idea that it's just an open keg. Okay. We need to turn off that tap and say, folks, party's over. Pay your own way. Most of you folks are already successful. Margaret Atwood could pay for her own promotion. Lynn Johnson can hawk her own comic books. And we certainly don't need to be spending taxpayers' money on sex toys in Germany. Can't believe I said that in a sentence. So this is frustrating, really frustrating for people. We laugh because otherwise we'd cry. Yeah. What is the real fix here, though? How do we fix this and stop this?
Well, I feel like we say this all the time, but it's worth repeating. These bureaucrats just need to use some common sense, and they need to remember that it's not their money. The money that they're wasting on all this is actually from hardworking Canadians, from hardworking mom and dads who have to make sacrifices and tough decisions every single day. So it's really on the bureaucrats to remember that they're not spending their own money and that they have to actually make sure and do their own due diligence. Because unfortunately, really, these bureaucrats at Global Affairs, they continue to prove that they have way too much tax dollars on their hands if they think that this is a good use of money. Now, this is where really the second level comes in, and that's on Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, she is supposed to be our representative. She is supposed to be the one who keeps an eye on the public purse, especially when we're more than $1 trillion in debt. So if these bureaucrats keep wasting money, it should be on the finance minister to stop giving them so much money to waste. And the first place to find some savings is the Mission Cultural Fund, the one that we were just talking about, essentially a slush fund for global affairs bureaucrats to be wasting our money on all those little things. But look, I think what this really shows, Chris, is that we're really in need of just a total spending review, department by department by department. And that's something that the finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, really has to initiate.
The buck really does stop with her. There's always the political staff that work for the minister, and that changes as the government changes. And then there's the bureaucrat staff. They work in the department. They're there like Stonehenge. They're always there, and they continue to expand. It is the political staff's job to make sure the bureaucrat staff is not approving these expenses and blowing taxpayers' money. Absolutely crazy. For folks who want to see more details on where your money was going and what kind of furniture it was buying, we're going to stick Jimbo's story in the National Post in our show notes.
Hi, I'm Scott Hennig, president of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. If you've got another minute, I'd like to ask you to think about the one person you know that would really enjoy listening to this podcast. Do us a favor and do them a favor and send them a quick note to let them know about it. At the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, we believe there is power in numbers. That's why we've worked so hard to build an army of taxpayers who are ready to push back. And we did it because people like you shared our work with that one person that they knew would really appreciate taking part. Thanks for listening, and thanks for doing your part to make Canada a better place.